Is that a sharpener? Oh no, that's a knife. You talking now? I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I didn't hear you. What did you say?
It's meant for cutting large pieces of meat.
Welcome back to the PO3 Podcast. My name is Marcus Mark.
Yo, just John.
Anyway, that's like a special.
Yeah, it was just a knife I had a guy make, but when I was cooking or cutting tri-tip, and I'm about to make my brisket next week. When I was cutting, the heel of the blade was getting caught on the meat when I was pulling it back from slicing, so it kept like dragging the meat, so it was getting annoying. So this guy on the
It was like shredding the meat.
No, it wasn't shredding. It was just like you're cutting, and it's like okay, goddamn it, and then do it again. So this guy on the forums posted that he was a knife maker.
Yeah, and
I went to his Instagram page. He had like 15,000 followers on Instagram, and I hit him up, and then we.
What kind of steel is it?
Honestly, man, I didn't ask him, but he does custom knives, so you can tell him exactly what you want. Like, hey, I want
Damascus one.
Bruh.
That's my like dream knife to have right there, like a custom made Damascus knife with my engraving on it.
Yeah, dude, check this out. This is the cleaver. I'm gonna have him make me. Well, right. And again, this is off his set that he made for somebody else.
Holy crap! It's dangerous. So you gotta be careful with those.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, welcome back to the PO3 Podcast.
Real quick, and these are the Damascus knives I already have.
You have that already?
Mm-hmm.
Are they like
Bro,
super?
I'm a culinary expert. Well, yeah, that's why I went through him, because these were $200 a piece. So I was like, okay, I don't feel like making an entire set of that. It's gonna be like a loan.
I want one.
So they do like that cleaver's gonna be $155.
That's not really expensive for someone.
And you get to pick I don't know if it's gonna go up if I want like a particular material for the handle, but I like that blue.
Oh yeah, I like the blue Damascus too.
Yeah, so
or like the black and the pewter. That look is crazy.
So anyway.
Yeah, anyway, we were talking before you guys showed up.
Actually, I wanted to give a shout out to, let me make sure I get the name right real quick, because I think it's your cousin. This is Luhan Gaming?
Yeah. Dude's
always commenting, so.
Shout out Shout out to Luhan Gaming, dude.
Yeah, dude's always up in the comments, so.
Oh, yeah, he's always supporting, dude. He's been supporting since day one.
When I was watching the latest one you posted of us, when you had you edited the part of you taking the medication for the first time, and that was him, right? That you were talking to.
Yeah, I was playing Warzone with him, so that was cool. That was an interesting day.
Yeah, actually, I was like, before I watched the video, because I always watch all of our stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I like to see like what I could work on and things like that, and just reliving some of the dumb stuff that we say.
Yeah. And
I was like, you know what? This guy's always commenting. I want to give him a shout out. And then like literally like 10 minutes after that is when you introduced that scene into it of your vlog, and then I was like, oh, okay, same guy. Well, okay, cool. Well, shout out to you, man. Props, appreciate the love.
Yeah, dude, he's got like 9,000 subscribers. He built that all on his own, just over
gaming.
Just from gaming. So that was pretty impressive right there.
Hey, man, do you get that on Warzone only or what?
No, he plays everything. He's just like a true gamer. Like, he just plays everything.
Hey, well, help my stream out, man. Come on, dude. Frank Lucas.
Yeah, he'll stream it sometimes too, which is pretty cool.
Twitch.tv/Frank Lucas. Let's go.
Yeah, so but anyway, yeah, shout out to you, Luhan Gaming.
Yeah, props, bro. Appreciate it.
Hang in there. He's got some big stuff coming up pretty soon. So good luck with that. I hope everything goes well. But anyway, so the first thing I wanted to talk about, by the way, it's like 7 a.m. right now. So, 8 a.m. We're changing up the vibe right now. John's got some plans today. Actually, it's your anniversary, right? So, congrats on that, bro.
Thanks, man.
How long?
First one.
First
1 year.
Oh, it's your first one. That's always an interesting one, huh? Like, do I get a gift? Do I do something? Like, what? Like, where do I lie? You know? Right, But you should know where you.
Oh no, we're good. We're good. Yeah. We're solid. It's just 1 year, man. It's like time's come and gone already. Holy crap.
Did you go through that awkward, like the first time you guys actually started dating, and then the holidays roll around? Like, so how long, like, did either birthdays or holidays roll around until you guys started to date? Because you know that period where you're like, it's awkward where like, I don't know if I got to get this person a gift yet or not.
I got you. So when, not to take too much away because we got a lot to cover today, but we actually started talking to each other initially like right at the end of February last year. And so this is like right when COVID and everything just started getting shut down, right? So she was taking COVID like super, super serious. So we didn't hang out until June, but we were like nonstop every day talking from.
So 4 months.
Yeah. And so I think we went out for the first time like in the middle of June. It was like the 14th or something like that. We went, drive-ins were open for some, I thought was pretty cool. So we went and caught that. Went out for a dinner. And then it's like 2 weeks later was my birthday. And so that was kind of like that. I don't know, man, because like the first time we hung out, it was like.
Oh, so this is the first time you guys seen each other, and it just happened to be your birthday, like around the same time.
Or yeah, like a couple weeks later. Yeah. But since we already had like that 4 months worth of talking with each other, it made it. I don't know how it felt for her, but it just kind of felt normal. You know what I'm saying? Because we already had like established this dialogue.
So just like a homie you hadn't seen in a while, maybe.
Pretty
just
much,
like,
yeah.
I haven't seen you in a while, but
yeah, so that's kind of how it was. So then she knows she does her custom cookies and stuff like that. So she
shout her out, bro. Let's give her for future viewers.
Oh yeah, Delights by Desi. You can catch her on Instagram and on Facebook.
I'll plug her right here if she's comfortable with that.
Yeah. And so actually she made me these ones for this year, dude, because I'm a big old Friends fan. If you guys don't know that, I love Friends. I've seen every episode like a trillion times.
I've actually never watched it.
Dude, I love it.
Never gave it a shot.
My mom bought this trivia game, and it was like 100+ cards. And I think I didn't, because there was like multiple questions. I think on like the 7 cards she pulled out, I was only able to answer one of them. Like, and I knew what the other one was. I just couldn't think of like the specifics.
Yeah.
And then the other one, I was like a super fan and all the other crap. Like it was crazy. But yeah, so then the holidays rolled around, but no, we're good, man. I took us out though.
Oh yeah, she gets down. Those are like actual legit cookies, like not just your typical, what is it, chocolate chip cookies, which are fire.
She does those.
But those are like designer cookies.
Yeah, and like so themed cookies. Like she's got orders for like she's done like the Disney princesses. She did like Ariel from like Mermaid.
So she got you some of those for your birthday?
Yeah, she made those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I remember that was the way to my heart. Like
sweets.
Yeah, sweets, like 100%. like back in the day. Like I'm talking like 5 years ago or something like that. But I remember bringing it up to my fiance. This is when we were first dating, and I was like, man, like I kind of hinted at her, like, why don't you cook me some cookies or something? And then she showed up with a box like that of like custom made cookies, and then it was crazy. So like that's the way to my heart.
Yeah, and she does those chocolates, but they're called like gourmet cookies. Have you
yeah. That's why I said they're like designer cookies.
No, those are. I think those are actually called like decorative cookies.
Okay, yeah.
And then she does gourmet, which are like. Have you heard of that place called Crave?
Yeah, we've never been there, but we've been meaning to go.
So actually, Andrew, I guess his girlfriend saw me posting a bunch of her stuff. Andrew's girlfriend. And so she reached out to me, like, hey, like we'd like to, try them out. So they ordered chocolate chip, and then she put like those Ghirardelli chocolates in the middle. So that's like those, it was like caramel. So it had like that salty.
Yeah.
And he got those, and I forgot what other ones they ordered. But Andrew texted me. He's like, dude, we just had Crave like 2 days before this because someone gifted it to us. He goes, and your girls demolish Crave, and they're huge, bro. They're like,
and I hear Crave is like top of the
and I mean this is just one person's opinion.
Of cookies.
Yeah, this is just one person's opinion, and Andrew's usually not one to kind of BS. You know what I'm saying? So,
no, I don't think so.
They're really good, man. So she has this one that's like it's like a cinnamon roll in a cookie, and she uses like. I don't know what the hell she uses for the top, but it's amazing. I don't even like cinnamon rolls that much, but this one I devour, dude. It's an amazing cookie. So check her out. Yeah, Delights by Desi on Instagram.
Yeah, I'll put her right here somewhere, or a link in the description. One of the two.
Yeah.
But anyways, dude. So on the last episode we recorded, it's not the previous one to this one because we do these in consecutive order. So it would be episode 36 for you guys. This is episode 42. So it's a ways ahead, but I like to correct myself and everything. It's kind of funny that we were talking about this, like having a Google fact checker and everything. Like it would be nice to have somebody to like, while we're going back and forth, checking our facts, just to make sure that everything that we're saying is valid. I don't want to,
speak out of pocket.
Yeah, speak out of pocket and then state false facts. So one of the things that you brought up, and this was when we were talking about the book that I'm currently reading right now, The End of Mental Illness by Dr. Amen. Which, by the way, I did look it up to actually confirm, and he is an MD as well as a doctor as well.
Oh, wow.
Because when you did tell me that, I wasn't sure that you actually could be both, and that you didn't need to be a doctor in order to be an MD. Psychiatrist. I didn't know that, but he is a
So he's
doctor.
both.
Yeah,
Wow.
but I know that I read that somewhere. That's why I told you.
Mhm.
Yeah, when you asked me that question initially. But anyway, so I went back and did some while I was editing and stuff, and I had read more of the book subsequent to editing, right? So I sat down to edit after reading some more of the book, and one of the questions came up what you were asking me, and I remember you brought it up, and I might even just plug the clip right here. That way, it just makes it easier. But I'll go ahead and recap. You asked me, well, if this spec scan thing is such a big deal and it's so revolutionary, how come it's not more prominent amongst the field of psychiatry, right?
Mhm.
And my stupid response, my ignorant response, well, from what I gathered from the book and kind of just being lazy about it, was, well, there's just not enough money. When that's really not the case. Yeah, that's not the case. I mean, because you had rebutted with that, saying that there's plenty of money and everything, which is actually true. There's an abundance of money. It's just depending on where they want to allocate it to. Is kind of based on the general consensus of like the field of psychiatry and the leaders, and like how much traction could we get with, like a petition type of thing, if is there enough buzz around this current
Gotcha.
this current evolution, approach to psychiatry. Like, well, as I was reading, I was like, or no, after I was editing that, I remember that I went back and read that, and I even wrote it down in my highlights, in my notes. I was like, oh crap, like I gave you the complete wrong answer. So the actual real reason why it's not more prominent, like I said, amongst people in psychiatry, and why they don't actually practice this method, is because there's a thing called the DSM, and you know what that is.
Mhm.
So the DSM is basically the Bible of psychiatry. So
It's like DSM-5 right now is where we're
the
at, right?
DSM-5. So it's actually evolved over the years. The DSM is, let me see, page 30. Let's see actually when it was invented. But they've been through 5 versions of it.
Mhm.
Okay, so the first edition of the DSM was 1952.
Oh, wow, so we've come through a lot in the last
Yeah, and
60, 70
they've
years.
revised that, edited it, updated it, and added more to it. And now we're currently on the DSM-5, which is 2013. So
And
that's
what exactly
fairly
does
recent.
DSM stand for? Does it have it in there?
Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Okay, so it's basically what they use to diagnose a patient. So what they call it is symptom clusters. So if you say I'm a psychiatrist, you're a patient, you come in, this book is gonna be what I use to diagnose you. So you come in and you tell me all of your symptoms. Well, depending on whatever symptom cluster that you describe to me, I'm gonna go into the DSM or, from memory and kind of, look at it and see where those
Symptoms fall.
symptoms fall. And wherever they fall is gonna, give it a diagnosis to go with it. Or you can have a number of diagnoses. So the DSM is basically what they use to diagnose any patient. And it's huge. In psychiatry, this is like the main thing that they use. So the reason, going back to what I'm saying, is why they don't actually use the spec scan approach to it, which is basically it's like an MRI but different, and I'll explain that later.
And so that's not listed in there?
What?
The spec scan?
Oh, in the DSM. No, so I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
in the field of psychiatry, spec scans are considered taboo. So this guy, Dr. Amen, when he actually started experimenting, yeah, exact. I don't know why, but actually it's in here why. And there's a guy named Thomas something. He was like the most powerful psychiatrist in like 2005 and everything. And it has a lot to do with like just whoever is at the forefronts of psychiatry and the leaders of it. And basically, it's just such an archaic approach to psychiatry and diagnosing patients that they just haven't changed it over such a long period of time. Like they just kept running with this style of diagnosing patients because it worked.
So it's kind of like it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality type of thing.
And that's kind of like it when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like that's like the total wrong approach. Like you want to be evolving, right?
Yeah, stagnant, especially in the field. Well, I'm gonna consider this a field of medicine. you want to have, and it kind of goes like against like the scientific method. You know what I'm saying? Like scientists, like they don't ever like it assume that they're right. Like they're waiting for that next person to come out and be like, "Yo, whatever you found was wrong, and here's my challenge." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that way you can continue to progress forward. Because like in the scientific community, you know, they have an abundance of people to sit there and refute, you know, whatever new findings that one may have had. And if this guy is onto the spec scan thing and it's actually proving to be
Yeah.
fruitful, you know, it's like
Okay.
you should have some people want to come back and rebuttal against it. But I don't see, again, I don't know if it's going to go into in that book.
He does. He actually explains that, and he explains his POV of why he thinks, um, and it's actually pretty. It sounds like it fits of why he thinks people aren't using this. More psychiatrists aren't using this. So first of all, he was explaining how most psychiatrists feel like it's taboo to use the style of medicine. I guess you would call it medicine, right? And an approach to healing patients because it doesn't match what's in the DSM. So what the DSM says, it doesn't match the method of the spec scan. So they don't combine. Like there's nothing cohesive there. So in the field of psychiatry, they consider it taboo, right? And it seems like, well, just because it's a new method, right? Well, let's just try it out. Well, just because technically it doesn't match the DSM, so we're not going to use it. So people started when he started experimenting with this in that field. People started looking at him like he's like
Crazy.
like an outlander, not crazy, but like he's not like a real
It
psychiatrist.
was kind of like Mufasa talking to somebody they're over there in the dark area. You don't ever
Yeah,
go
yeah,
there,
yeah.
you know?
And then here's a page in here. So interesting. Let me see. I forget the guy's name. Oh yeah, Thomas. It's right here in front of me. Thomas Insil. I
Okay.
knew this was going to be the problem with taking notes because I tend to overdo it rather than just kind of like condense it. Uh, Thomas Insil, he was the most powerful psychiatrist in 2005, and basically he was kind of the one that kind of kicked it off for Dr. Amen to like go further into this style of uh, of diagnosing patients. Because what I'm starting to learn about this book is basically it's all about the SPECT scan and brain imaging and the information that we could pull from that to diagnose patients. Um, so one of the things he said, and he quoted while he was like, I think while he was actually getting an award for something like that. Um, he quoted, he said, while the DSM has been described as the Bible of the field, it's at best a dictionary, creating a set of labels and defining each. And then he also listened here saying that the DSM is 100% reliable, but 0% valid because it's not based on any underlying neuroscience. So basically, it's just his definition is it's basically just a dictionary.
So it's kind of like, okay, so we we've used, what was it called? Cluster, was it clusters?
Symptom clusters.
So we basically documented these amount of symptom clusters, and then we assigned it a, you know, a diagnosis or whatever, or a specific name. But that was just based off of no medical imaging or any sort of medical
Yeah, no
aspect of
underlying
it.
neuroscience. Like there was no definitive evidence saying this is exactly what it is, but it's 100% reliable because it's what's worked for so
Mhm.
long. So after like that's kind of how science is approached and how they because actually science is the exact same thing in the way that they make their decisions, right? And basically saying that okay, well we've studied this one particle and over time it has done this, and not X every single time that we've done this to it, plug in whatever your
Mhm.
experiment is. Therefore, we can say that it's
And
going to
then
behave the same way the next time that we do
and
this to it.
then someone like Dr. Alma comes in and finds another portion of that equation,
Yeah, yeah.
and I guess they're not too happy about it, it sounds like.
Yeah, and he explains it too, like where the state of like psychiatry is right now, and basically there's an evolution that's happening and progressing forward into like change, and he actually lists some steps of what he thinks like what stages we're actually in as far as psychiatry goes because people are still like the leaders right now who are running psychiatry are just going to keep using this method, the DSM, because that's what's working for them and they want to keep their
Now this
their
could
cash
be
flow.
okay. So this could be completely. This is speculative. This is conjecture. There's no any sort of. I'm formulating this hypothesis based off of what you just told me. Do you think it has anything to do with the fact that there would be a different type of schooling that would be required because now you're having to practice medicine and you're not an MD or whatever the type, like your PhD will no longer hold water because now you have to have both to do what he's doing effectively?
I imagine that is a big.
Like, oh crap! Now I have to.
So now there's 10 other steps that I got to do in order to become a psychiatrist.
Exactly.
Like, I imagine a fear that they would have if they did sign something like that is that they would revoke their license and make them go back and study
I think
again.
they would probably
or just add
maybe
it
the
on,
grandfather program type thing when anyone comes.
That's crazy, right? That's a slippery slope to be on, though. It's like,
well,
okay,
I mean,
why are these guys? How come you letting these guys still practice? Well, experience, right? But
well,
still.
I'm just saying. I wonder if that has anything to do with maybe the pushback is like, okay, now the requirements for me to do my job are going to be, raised.
Yeah.
And therefore, I may be, I don't want to say jobless, but just like worst case scenario, like, okay, now I have to go back to school to get this other degree just so I can do this one scan. And even though it's going to help people, based off what you said with Amin's findings have been, now I'm going to have to go back to school just so I can get this one little test so I can help people a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? Or more efficiently.
Well, I would imagine that would be a fear, though. Like, just imagine that. Like, all of a sudden they change. Like, imagine you wanted to be whatever, And in 2005, it was like, oh, I only got to do 4 years of school.
Well, actually, back in the 80s, I think it was back in the 80s, there was each police department was required for teaching and training their officers. There was no standardized, so in California you have police officer standardized training, right?
Yeah.
And that's like a certification you get to be a police officer in the state of California. You get that in any one of the accredited schools. You can be a cop anywhere. But in the 80s, that wasn't a thing. And I thought, 86 keeps sticking out to me. I don't know if that was a great year, but the correct year. But all the cops that were cops before this went into effect. They were grandfathered into this. And I think they maybe had to go through some additional training, I would assume, just to kind of, but they didn't say, okay, well, it changed. Therefore, all you guys that are cops now are no longer cops because now you would have no cops in California because we had to wait for a whole new bunch of people to graduate, and patrol the streets. So they grandfathered those guys in. And then from that date forward, whatever it was, they were, that was the means to become one was different than it was the year prior, So
yeah,
maybe something like that would happen, for this. But
well, that would have to. That's gonna lie in the future, and only time will kind of tell with this type of thing. Just because it's kind of like politics. Like the people that are in charge right now are just in charge until something changes, until somebody speaks up and kind of creates a revolution, and changes the paradigm, and the thinking in which these old school archaic politicians are, operating on, the guidelines that they're operating on and under. That's it's the same thing. It's like you see that in like a lot of fields, like whatever kind of culture you're looking into, you see a lot of the same behavior patterns and people in general, because I think people in general just have that instinct, especially when
survival,
especially when you involve power into it. It's like, okay, well, once we have the power, we want to keep the power, and once we have what we've been working so hard for, we don't want to let anybody else in. It's like tribes, it's very tribal, and the same thing goes for psychiatry. There is a number of people who are in charge and who are running the show right now, and who kind of have the biggest say so. Who are reluctant to allow change. And
that kind of goes in, I'm going to go off on a little tangent here and I'll bring it back real quick, but current day politics are like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, to me, it's kind of like our forefathers when they, invented the Constitution or wrote it and stuff, and they had the foresight for checks and balances, and it would be nice that if that found its way into smaller cultures, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, like no matter what field you're in, there's going to be a culture surrounding that particular field where you have a kind of like sort of checks and balances. That way, whoever the lead psychiatrist of the day is not going to be the one that has all the power, and maybe his few people that are beneath him, are going to be just, repeating everything he says as truth, and we're not going to go forward from there, where there would be some sort of checks and balances in place where he doesn't have the ability to have that overall powerful control, and it's what I say goes, and until I die, it's going to be this way or until I retire. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny you say that because one of the quotes that I wrote down here when he's explaining the scientific revolution and how change comes about, especially in a field like this, is the only way that science advances is through funerals.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, because, it's not working anymore. So we got to try to figure out.
Well, no, it's just the people that were in charge eventually die off.
Oh, I took that as people, like just that they're helping dying from misdiagnosis and
both,
stuff like
right?
that.
Both. I mean, but I don't know though, because the numbers of like suicides and everything have gone up. Like the rates have gone way up, and still nothing has changed.
That's my point. So maybe it's just kind of like, okay, I hate to say it, but like, okay, more people got to die for them to look further into it. Maybe say, hey, needs to be some more
these
changes.
people got to die. The people that, and that's unfortunate to say, and I wouldn't wish death on anybody, but I'm just saying, like
they need to be.
These people need to be removed from power
Yeah.
because their way of thinking is just, they're so hard headed, and like I said
It's
again,
kind of
archaic.
crazy how you find this kind of stuff even in something like this, where their sole purpose is helping individuals.
Well, it's crazy though, because this dude has been in the field for 20 plus years, and this is the stuff that he's writing down. He's relaying this to us, his experience in the field of psychiatry, and he's a legit doctor.
You know, what's crazy to me is just like the fact that it's just like it's taking someone from the medical field to take a medical approach, and like you mentioned in that was it 36? Episode 36?
Oh yeah.
That it's like, okay, this is the one field where you don't inspect the organ or the area, that's for physical trauma. You're just going, based off of, I don't know what causes mental health issues or brain health issues, but maybe chemical imbalances or
it's a number of things.
Or neurons aren't, linked together the way whatever it may cause mental health, but like, they're not actually physically inspecting. Like, hey, I slapped my head skateboarding one day and I never came back the same. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's a lot of shit that, like there's a lot of stuff in here. We can cuss, forget that. I just don't want to do it as much. That you're saying, and I'm just like, I wrote this down. I wrote this, but I don't want to be like bouncing all over the.
Yeah.
I
apologize for
no.
Track.
It's fine because I want to go there too, but I want to finish what I was saying in the beginning. Okay, so it kind of everything just ties into the question that you had, like why, which was a really good question. Like, okay, why aren't people using this method more often, right? It's just like, well, the answers are out there if you just look really closely and read them between the lines. And this is one of the guys that's been in the field, and he sees what's going on, and I'm hoping that he's really putting some stuff in this book that is true and 100% valid. And
so I have a question that ties into that.
Okay.
Without trying to derail you too much. So Dr. Allman and Dr. Elson?
Incel.
Is there other people that are finding similar things?
I don't know. This is the only guy that I've come across so far. And now that I'm actually getting into this kind of stuff, I want to see like, all right, what other psychiatrists are putting out their own, private books and or public books, and what are their takes on psychiatry? I want to kind of compare methods and everything. This one just happened to hit, like, and for me, it made a lot of sense to me because prior to getting any treatment for what I'm going through, I always felt like, damn, dude, like I feel like I've said this over and over and over, and everybody would always just tell me, just be patient, just give it a chance. But in my head, I was like, dude, there's something missing. Like I feel like there's something missing, like I feel like the way that they're approaching my treatment is just off. I feel like because you go in there and if, like I've said, I feel like I'm just going in for 15, 20 minutes and then they hand me a bottle of pills. Well, I wasn't crazy for thinking that. There's literally something in here in a chapter called the 15-minute med check. And basically it's called that because over time, insurance companies started limiting the amount of time that psychiatrists could spend with their patients because they want to make sure that they're making their quota, so to speak, you know what I mean? And paying back and paying off their student loans. And then it got so bad to the point where it wasn't even the psychiatrists that were writing the prescriptions. It was like assistants and everything like that. And I wrote that down too. But yeah, it was literally called a 15-minute med check. So people were only going in there being seen for like 15, 20 minutes, and then they were getting handed a bottle of pills, right? And I was like, when I read that, I was like, oh shit, like, dude, I'm not crazy for thinking that. You know what I mean?
It's crazy because you can go into the emergency room and they do something similar to that and they prescribe you medication, but that's based off of physical findings.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So it's And then again, that comes down to, and again, with what you said when you were, going through your diagnosis process, and you were probably, because I think your doctor even pointed it out, or maybe she didn't, but we're trying to be as 100% truthful. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, in your experiences, so they can accurately diagnose you and not misdiagnose you.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people just kind of say enough? Okay, like they don't say everything they're going through, for one reason or the other, and they're not getting the proper diagnosis.
So, but also
And
too, it's oversaturated, so it's hard to.
Well, what I'm saying is like, then okay, well, you didn't lie to me, and I have no way of validating that. So here, like, here's your bottle of pills.
Well,
oh, that didn't work. Oops. You know what I'm saying? Like,
But if it matches the DSM and those symptom clusters, then they're gonna be like, okay, well, I'm comfortable with giving you these pills because it matches the DSM, and this is what lines up with that treatment plan. And then also, like, over, like, the more that we progress, like, we're already 5 versions into the DSM. So he also it mentions in here, like, it's getting easier and easier to diagnose patients because the symptom clusters just keep growing and growing and growing. They keep adding to it. So it's making it easier to diagnose, like, people that aren't necessarily,
so
like,
it's kind of like they're, instead of making it very, very specific symptoms for one,
it's making it more generalized.
So now it's just, okay, well, this one can go here too. And so now it's just becoming, instead
it's
of
getting worse.
They're merging together. It's kind of like a Venn diagram almost.
Yeah, and now in my head I'm seeing, like, okay, now we're going the opposite direction of where we need to go, because it needs to be more specified.
Yeah, exactly.
Not generalized, especially when you're dealing with something like this.
Well, now I want to know if there's other doctors out there, whether they're psychiatrists or MD as well, that have noticed this pattern and would like to try to, evolve it going forward.
Well, I hope so, dude. So like I said, I'm gonna keep reading this book and then doing my best to get it out there. But I want to read this because going back to the 15-minute med check, and then I'll go back to the other thing. There's a lot of stuff in here. But this is for the 15-minute med check. I'm gonna read what he says in here. When I was training in the late 1970s to the mid 1980s, psychiatrists were able to spend time with patients. If patients needed to be hospitalized, psychiatrists could treat and stabilize them over weeks or months. In outpatient settings, psychiatrists perform both psychotherapy and medication management, often seeing patients 1 to 2 times a week. In the early 1990s, when managed healthcare became more popular, insurance companies began to dictate how long patients could stay in the hospital and how many sessions they could have with therapists. Having been in the trenches at the time, it seemed to me that many of their decisions were based not on patient need, but on attempts to optimize company profits. So it's like, well, X amount of patients equals X amount of dollars. So the less time we spend with these patients, the more patients that we can actually bring into the clinic, meaning more money.
Now, don't judge me on this, guys, but I came across this TikTok, right? And this guy, I'm assuming he was in the medical field. And basically, it dealt exactly with what you just said there, that the doctor would make a recommendation for a particular treatment plan for a patient.
Mm-hmm.
But then somebody from the insurance company would be like, no, that's not it. And I could be misrepresenting what he said because I don't remember exactly, but it just stuck in my mind because the thing he was trying to make was the persons making the decisions had no medical backgrounds, and that's what they allow the doctors to do when it comes to insurances. Or if the doctor says, well, no, this is what he or she needs, I'm going to get this done, and the insurance isn't going to cover it, and now the patient is stuck with a massive bill for the proper treatment, but someone from the insurance company that has no medical background said that wasn't the appropriate treatment for this particular ailment, therefore they're not going to cover it.
That kind of ties into...
And it goes exactly what that was just saying, just kind of like, well, now, so you have people in the insurance field telling these guys, okay, the things you're doing, it's taking too long, so you're going to have to make adjustments or we're not going to cover it because we got to get more people in here.
Mm-hmm.
And now people with no degree in this particular field are making the decisions for healthcare.
And again, it goes back to, well, these are just the people that are in charge.
Yeah, and it's kind of crappy because, as the doctor, you're well, if I go against the insurance provider's wishes, then I'm gonna have less customers coming to me because no one's gonna want to come to me because I can't give them the appropriate treatment because they're footing a massive bill. So now, do I do the morally correct thing, in my opinion, or do I do what the insurance companies want so I can continue to get paid? Hey, we cover this insurance.
Yeah.
Come to me. You know what I'm saying? But I have to cater to their all their things they want done or not want done, because now if I don't do that, then I lose this insurance provider's, business, and they're going to go elsewhere. You know what I'm saying?
It's either pay the copay or pay in full.
So
what are you gonna do? No treatment or a little bit of treatment.
Maybe on another episode I watched this video on healthcare, bro, and it is mind blowing how ridiculous healthcare is as far as insurance goes. It was like a good hour-long video strictly dedicated to insurance things, and it ties into this. And I'll rewatch it so I can come up with more facts.
Okay.
But it's crazy, dude.
So yeah, all this stuff just happens to tie into each other because they're all connected. They're all very much in the same category, and it kind of goes like full circle. So because of that, and this is just one of the steps that eventually, I guess, has to happen when you have this number of patients coming in, and then when the insurance companies get involved, this is what happens. Because you ever go into the doctor's office and you're waiting for like 30 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's because this dude is seeing all of these patients. You hear him knocking on, going from door to door. There's just not enough time, and there's not enough. So
not enough doctors.
Yeah. So not enough doctors, right? Not enough people in charge that are capable of making the correct diagnosis and treating these patients. So this is what ends up happening. Non-psychiatric physicians, nurse practitioners, and physician assistants are now writing most of the prescriptions to manage your mind, or in general, like to treat you. You know what I mean? Which is crazy.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just like you want. I understand, like, I would say the necessity for having nurse practitioners.
It's 85%, dude.
Which is a nurse practitioner, I think, is like a step below a doctor. So they have a lot of.
But still, though, it's
no. My point being, though, is like we don't have enough of these people that are making these decisions. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a very, very competitive field. And I was talking to.
It goes back. It's like cops, dude. Like there's not enough of these people in charge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I was talking to my mom about it, and she was talking about like, well, they need more doctors. And I was like, yeah, but if they lower their requirements, would you rather have a doctor that got a C in operation, or would you rather have the guy that had an A+? You know what I'm saying? So I was like, so you can't lower these standards, but the crappy part is because the standards are set so incredibly high, there's so few people that actually make it to that point. You know what I'm saying? And
that's where we got to be at least thankful for the ones that we do have.
Exactly. And then it goes, and that's why I can see why the doctors in this case are like, hey, you go talk to this patient because I have to go take to these other, this one's not that big.
It's almost like, can you blame them?
That's the exactly, so it's I don't know what the fix is, man. Honestly, we got to just make smarter people.
Well, the fix here is going to be spreading awareness. Yeah. Getting this into people's heads and actually drilling it into people's heads as far as like how serious of an issue this actually is in general.
I hope that would create an overhaul for this.
Because that would create a fear in people.
I don't think, because people are well aware of how like insurance companies are basically scams, and yet we all get them. You know what I'm saying? And
well, I mean just in general, like their approach to like
I agree
healthcare.
With you. I agree with you.
Like
100%.
if we could just drill this into people's heads and be like, look, this is how things really are. Like it's not you go in there and they're always right. It's not that you can't believe everything you read. And I try to be thorough on what I'm reading.
I think I asked this question. I don't know if you answered it. I don't recall, or if you weren't able to answer it entirely. But not every mental or brain health diagnosis is not associated with a traumatic event, right?
No. So which was another good question, because it could just be a chemical imbalance, or it could be due to trauma, or it could be a combination of both, but we need to look.
But that's the point. We got to figure this out one way or the other, whether it is or it isn't.
Yeah, because there was another thing I wrote down here. Go ahead and continue. I'm going to look for this.
No, that was basically the question I had, was just, and I do remember asking this question because I want to know what the disparity between those that have traumatic head injuries and mental health go, or is it just kind of like, hey, 15% of all the people we see are...
It's a very high number, and I know it is, but I got to find that number to be sure. But it's a lot more than you would actually think.
From trauma?
Yeah, from actually...
from physical trauma?
From trauma or just environmental causes.
Okay. So it's not like a 5% of people had brain injury.
It's actually up there. Yeah, it's actually up there. Like, dude, your brain is like the texture of a piece of like warm butter. Just imagine that, and then you got your thick skull surrounding that, and we're over here headbanging at EDC, you know, and it's just like our heads floating around in there, and you know, like if that will mess it up, which has been proven that it will over time, it'll inflammate it. Imagine getting wrecked in the head by like a baseball bat or a baseball, or getting cracked over and over in football, concussions, like being a kid falling like on your skateboard or whatever. Just imagine what that's doing to your head, you know? Like, dude, I used to, and now I regret this. Like when I used to get mad when I was young, and this is embarrassing, but when I used to go through my shit as a kid, I used to get so mad, dude. I used to love banging my head on shit and hitting myself in the head as hard as I could. Like, imagine what that was doing to me, you know? And how many kids do that? Like you see, like in movies, like they try and make it cool to like headbutt somebody in a fight. No, it's just like, dude, like, no, like we're doing the opposite here. We need to make, if anything, we need to wear a helmet. All not that extreme, but like, dude, protect
Actually,
the thing that is driving you.
That you met with. There's this doctor that works where I work, and he drives his car with a helmet on.
Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, it looks funny, and maybe he's onto something, but you know, it's just kind of like, come on, guy, you're.
There's a thing that I wanted to go back to your question. Okay, so but what clinicians cannot do and will never be able to do without functional brain imaging is know the underlying brain biology of the patients they treat. Without imaging your brain, your doctor cannot tell if you're in inattention, depression, or aggression is from, and then it lists a bunch of shit. So it's like, if you're not looking into what is causing your depression, if you're not physically looking at it, well, you're potentially missing the things that are causing it. So you're rolling out a whole list of potential.
Okay, now I have another question based off this.
And I could read these, but it's a long list of things that they can see with SPECT scan imaging that would be causing this or that, whatever you're dealing with.
I know you gave that example of that dude that just working out and all that other stuff helped him out versus the medication. With them finding out whether or not your condition was caused by a trauma to the head, does that change the treatment plan?
Yeah, because that means that it's not alone by itself, just schizophrenia. So you don't just need schizophrenic medic. Oh, speaking of that, there was a guy in here, and I'm all over the place because he's basically hitting every single thing that comes up. Any question? There's a guy that got diagnosed schizophrenic. Long story short, did the SPECT scan. It wasn't schizophrenia. It was chronic depression. So,
and they found that through the scan?
Yeah, they found that through the scan. So that, therefore, changing the treatment diet, the treatment plan.
So the reason I'm asking these questions is because it just drives further home the necessity for the SPECT scan approach to this, because whatever he told the doctor said, okay, you're this specific set of symptom clusters. We're going to go with this. But going through imaging, we found out, nope, it was this. And I'm sure the guy's better off for it now.
Yeah. So, I mean, does that kind of answer, to go back to the first thing, to refute my question, or the question and my answer that I gave, because there's not enough money, such a lame answer, but does that kind of explain like why people in the field of psychiatry aren't using this? Because, okay, one, there's people that are in charge and that have the power right now. They don't want to give that power up, and they're reluctant to allow change, right? And then two, it doesn't match the DSM. You know, this method of diagnosing patients and approaching treatment plans doesn't align with the Bible of psychiatry. So those two things are why this isn't more prominent in the field, you know, which is sad.
It answers it rather well. But my response to the first time this question was put forward, I still think it comes down to doing stuff like this, where, because I remember when you said it was money, I was like, hey, well, we need to get this out to people because it could fall in the ears of a person that has the ability to make change. And then again, through you guys listening, liking, subscribing, sharing this kind of content, it might help it fall upon someone's ears that isn't the ability to bring this issue forward and still rectify the problem. You know what I'm saying? Because it sounds like a pretty big one to me, man. I mean, granted, this is one person's perspective, but it's kind of hard to argue the and it's coming from no background of this whatsoever, but it sounds like it's hard to argue his findings. You know, like he's given his experience in watching it, from back in the day, to insurance companies getting involved, to the reluctance to not want to deviate from the DSM's current,
Mm-hmm.
model. And yet he's giving you cases where he went, I guess, taboo and went to
Dude,
these
it's
scans.
filled
And
with cases of people that have just been like,
that's
they
my,
discovered it. Yo, it's not just this simple.
and that's my point. And
From
it's having
looking at it,
dramatic effects on these individuals who are getting misdiagnosed because either they're not being 100% truthful with the doctor that's evaluating them to give them a more um, accurate diagnosis, to them actually adding symptoms from one to another, and now all of the diagnoses are kind of blending into one. That's a massive one. Instead of it becoming more defined, is becoming more ballooned out.
That's the scary part. He said it's disturbing to see this happening.
That makes you. I mean, it's just like, I don't see how. So it's hard to argue the stuff that he's bringing forward. It's like, it makes no sense to me, even as a person that has no background in this or formal education in this. It just, hearing it's just like, how do you? We're going backwards. Like, you would think in the beginning it would just be these massive bubbles, and you're trying to make them smaller, and now they got them small, and now they're making them bigger.
And what I'm gaining from this is the reason that nothing is changing is because of money, dude. It always comes down to one thing: money. These people are making a lot of money in the field of psychiatry, and then also in pharmaceuticals. Huge. Like, dude, so Prozac invented in 1987, and it's the SSRI that most people know about, Prozac, and it's for an antidepressant. So in 1987, when they invented Prozac, the percentage of people on Prozac in the U.S. went up 400%. So I think it was like 1 out of like every 10 people are on Prozac in the U.S., which is a huge number. Like 1 out of 10 people that you walk they're consuming SSRIs, So these pharmaceutical, and then they're charging an arm and a leg for them. So these pharmaceutical companies are just making millions off of people, off of people being sick,
Now,
and the more people that are sick, the more money they make.
Now, I don't necessarily disagree with pharmaceutical companies making money, because money is going to drive them for innovation.
But it's creating an ulterior motive now.
Well, I mean, again, they're with that kind of ability you're gonna have corrupt people. You know what I'm saying, in any position. But it's kind of like, because I was watching that video with the pharmaceuticals, and that one I was talking about, where I would like to go watch it again and come back with some stuff about insurance companies, because they brought in the price of medication.
1 in 10 Americans.
They brought the price of medication into that. It's like, it's for one pill, it's super expensive. Like, for people to take this pill. He goes, but you got to think these people that come up with these medications, they spend billions of dollars in research. And so they're going to have to make that money back to make it a profit of it. Otherwise, why are we doing this? You know what I'm saying? So I that's why I think they released the patent on it after a while, and they're able to make generic versions of it. So that way it's cheaper for people.
Oh, okay.
But in the beginning, as the greed aspect does play a factor into it, and it benefits us because it's going to drive, hey, there's a large group of people that are whatever condition.
Let's capitalize on that.
Well, but the thing is, it's affected. It's a market.
Yeah.
We can come up with something that's going to fill that void. And
here's a problem, and then we're going to give you that solution, and then we're going to make.
Well, yeah, but if there's no money to be made, they're not going to want to venture into it. So it's kind of like,
there is no incentive.
Exactly. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
It is, because like, you never really know, like, when you involve that amount of money into it, when these CEOs are making multi-millions, like, is your heart in the right place?
See, and that's the crappy part, is because I'm sure the scientists and doctors behind a lot of these medication discoveries, their heart is in it to help the vast majority of people they can, but the people that are giving them the money to do it,
the sharks,
are trying to make the most money they can, so it's kind of like,
and going back to this, they're looking at it through a monetary lens and a business lens. Is it going to put me in the positive cash flow? And if it's not, then let's fix that 15-minute med check.
Well, dude, because there's this medication. I don't know what it was for, but it was like $400 a pill, and it was a pill that was required to be taken daily.
This was from the guy you were talking about, that you saw him go from this, like, he basically was a child, a vegetable, and then when he got on
No,
this
no, no.
medication,
No, this is
he went from being that to bilingual, right?
basically, yeah. But this is not that guy.
It's a different guy.
This is this. It was in that video. This pill was like $400 a pill, and it was like you had to take it every day.
With insurance?
No, just the pill itself,
Okay.
or some of that. And it's like, dude, $400 a pill, right? I don't know if that could have been with or without. I don't remember.
Probably without.
But irregardless, it's like, dude, for a month supply, that's got like $12,000. Multiply that times a lifetime. You know what I'm saying? But they were saying like the reason that particular pill is so high because it was such a very small amount of people that are affected by this medical condition that they don't make any money. So they have to adjust the prices to make it worthwhile for people to invent these medications that help with this particular condition. So it's like I said, it's I like the current system that we have, capitalism. Personally speaking, I feel like that drives a lot of innovation, whether it be medication, technologies, stuff like that. People see a hole, they're going to invent the technology or whatever it is to progress forward and give people what they need or want. But it's also a double-edged sword because then once you start seeing that cash flow come in, that's all it becomes is cash flow. And now how can we milk the most out of it? And that's where I think the human element is a beautiful one, but it's also a very ugly one because I don't think I would like to think if I were in a position of power that I would try to remain what I would consider level-headed. But once you get into that and you see these, commas, multiple commas in your bottom line, you're going to want to keep that because it's more in your pocket. You know what I'm saying? So,
and we would all like to think that, right? Like,
yeah.
If I ever became a millionaire, I'd be one of those guys that's not going to spend my money on stupid stuff. And then
you're bankrupt.
And then next thing you know, all you're buying is Gucci, Louis Vuitton, you're buying Ferraris. And it's just like, dude, what happened?
And so
it's like you would like to think that, but you never know because
so you
hear it so much. Like money changes you, dude. And it's and it's because of like the human nature, and it's no different for these CEOs and these people, these powerful CEOs who are running these companies. It's no different.
So like I said, to all that to say, I don't know how you fix that problem.
And that's just something that is the holy grail of like answers.
Because I think it said that the root of evil runs to the heart of every man.
Money.
No, just the root of evil. Every human being has.
I thought
you
were saying what is the root of evil? Okay.
No, just like every person has that root of evil that runs through every man's heart. You know what I'm saying? So, or every person's heart. And so it was an old saying, but I believe that to be true because everybody has that potential.
It's called a guilty conscience, man.
And everyone has that potential to. You can be the most perfect person, and you get put in one scenario, and that evil side of you just manifests itself. And I feel that maybe people, when they got into the business, were trying to be the better person. And then when you are able to influence entire markets or make millions, if not billions of dollars, it's hard to turn away from that. Even though you've already made your fortune.
It's like, how do you say, no, you're addicted at that point.
Exactly. So I don't know what the fix is, but I do think that it starts with getting this type of stuff out because at least in the field of medicine, your primary goal is to help people. And if you can do it more effectively, that should be the area that we should be looking into. Because hey, look, you made the point in the last, in episode 36, how archaic the treatments back were in the 1700s, 1600s, 1800s, where they would drill holes in your head to release the demons, or hey, you're possessed, you're a witch, so therefore your whole family's a witch, so we're going to put them all in institutions. Like, we've come a long way from there, and we need to continue that trend. Okay, we have the DSM-5. Let's go with DSM-6 now. We'll include spec scan, or maybe in DSM-7, the spec scan will be a thing. But we need to not be so quick to dismiss a person's new findings because it doesn't fit with our current model.
And that's exactly his whole point of this. They are dismissing it because it doesn't align with the current model of DSM, but in reality, the DSM has been revised, 5 times, and a lot of that archaic shit is still in there. We're still going based off these guidelines. It's like, no, we're in a new era now. This is an era of like technology, you would think nanotechnology is like, we have the know-how.
You would definitely think that would be the appropriate step forward. Is okay, now we no longer have to rely on black and white paper. We can actually have this machine that will scan a person's brain for us and make our job easier. Because now if you're not being 100% truthful with me when the questions that I'm asking you for whatever reason, then I'm only going based off what you're telling me versus, well, now I have an image of your brain and I can tell that you're not telling me the truth.
It's
You know what
like,
I'm saying?
dude, if there's something wrong with your Tesla or something like that, or even your Mustang, a lot of the times if there's something going on with it and it involves the computer part and the CPU part of the engine or the car, a lot of the times what the mechanics will do is they'll hook that up to a computer and it'll tell them like, okay, this is what's wrong. This is flagged. This is flagged.
But then
Would you-
if that don't work,
Then we go in there.
which I would say would be the equivalent to when they plug that into the OBD2 reader,
Yep.
that's the computer telling them what's wrong with them. But the computer's not saying exactly what's wrong with them, so they still have to physically, okay, well, what issue, what sound is it making? And they're gonna, okay, that's likely associated with this. Let's go investigate. Let's
Exactly.
go physically examine the organ of the vehicle that's broken.
So
So it comes back to
would
what
you
you're saying.
appreciate a mechanic that takes those steps, or would you rather, or would you be comfortable taking it to a mechanic that's just like, I'll just eyeball it and I'll listen.
That's my point, exactly.
$5,000. Here's your bill. I was like, are you sure, dude? You didn't even look.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
my point, and that's how what Almond's trying to do, and get out there.
all this to say, dude, I feel like no shit, right? Like that's my whole thought. Like when I'm reading this, I'm just like,
Yeah, that's what
well,
I'm
no
saying.
shit, right? Like
yeah,
we should. Like, how come it's not? Like, what
that's
the
what
fuck?
that's what I'm saying. That's why it's hard to give. Again, this is coming, purely from a non-educated background in this regard. But you can't. You look at it, it's like, yeah,
How you gonna deny it?
That's my point. It's like, how can you look at this? And I encourage whoever doctor is in charge of this to come forward and refute what he's saying, because then now we're having discourse about it, and you can put the scientific literature to battle, and leaving your opinion out of it. Like, no, this is what the data suggests, and the numbers don't lie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The numbers are numbers for a reason. Those aren't influenced by emotions or ulterior motives.
This is real numbers.
There's numbers. All it is this is what we inputted, and this is the output. This is what it says. You know what I'm saying? And so
and
that's why I'm saying it's so hard to argue with what you just pointed out here. Is like,
and it's crazy, dude, because like it comes down to like high school bullshit. It's like you got these cliques running the show right now, and it's like they're not gonna give this power up, and it's like, well, dude, like it feels like we're just stuck in a big version of like a long version of just like high school.
and but that again comes down to human, bro. In my opinion,
It's
It's
human.
like,
It's human nature, but that's why you got to get these and find these people, and God bless them. It's just like the people that are leading with their heart, and not the dollar sign. They're not chasing the dollar. Like their passion is to help people and find the most effective and efficient way of doing that, and an accurate way of doing that. And all these other people, and that are in charge are just driven by the dollar. And
yeah. So I watched this thing on this YouTube channel called Veritasium. It's a scientific channel, and it's going off on a little bit of a tangent, but it's long story short. They used E. coli, the bacteria. They're on generation 74,000, right? And so basically, what they were doing was they were trying to see what evolutionary approach these E. coli bacteria were going to take in a very, very controlled environment. And they had some crazy mutations where like they would just become more and more immune to antibiotics, right? And there was no external influence. It was the same amount of the specific components these things needed to survive and stuff they didn't. Over, I don't know what generation it was, these E. coli were able to eat and metabolize a certain chemical that they can't normally. And they're like, whoa, is this an error? They went back and checked all the data, and they ran the test several more times, and it came back that this specific strand or variant of this bacteria was now able to consume and metabolize a different chemical in that mixture. It was a mutation that happened. My point in saying this kind of stuff is you have people like this guy that's like his heart isn't trying to figure out how evolution works, how we can make better antibiotics that, for bacteria and viruses that are becoming more resistant to them. He's not going to make a fortune off this. He's going to get these findings, and some CEO from a medical pharmaceutical company is going to develop that, and they're going to make billions off of it. And their intention was never to, I want to have the best antibiotics available for people. It was, okay, we're going to use that. I'm going to give this guy a bunch of money to make it happen. He's going to make it. He'll make some dollars on the side, but I'm going to take in this gratuitous fortune from it, and we're going to capitalize on it. You know what I'm saying? And when this guy was in the field doing this experiment for 30 years, and he's trying to find the better good, and help people. And likely, if he was onto something, some big CEO with a lot of money or some pharmaceutical companies can take that and make a medication for that and make billions and fall right back into the same scheme that we're talking about now.
That vicious circle. And that's
Mhm.
why and it's an important quote where he said it's like we're only going to see progress through funerals. And it sucks because that's in order for change to happen, it's like somebody or something needs to be removed. And what needs to be removed is that style of thinking. And his main goal is to hammer this into young people, or people that are becoming psychiatrists and doctors, the future of America. Hammer this into their heads. That way we can develop a new style of thinking and recycle, and bring in a new level of thinking
And
into the new eras.
again, off on a tangent, and the crappy part about that is the current climate that we find ourselves sitting in. If they don't like what you have to say, they'll find a way to get you canceled.
Yeah, and that's what it is. That's why all these guys are just like rallying together around this guy and saying, well, like this doesn't work. Like it doesn't line up with the DSM.
Therefore,
That's like
it's wrong.
that's like a non-Christian going against the Bible, and that's exactly what it is.
And
they're going to try
it's
and
weird
banish
because
you.
we're finding ourselves circling back to that
Mhm.
tribalistic way of thinking.
It is very tribalistic.
And so that's what's concerning, is because I like to consider myself a free thinker, and it sounds like you are too, where I'm just going to take in information and then I'll formulate my own opinion on it. Not going to have somebody tell me that I'm wrong for thinking something else, and then to go with flow, I'm just going to agree with you, even though, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's being targeted. They want to tell you what to think versus how to think. And so
yeah, they don't teach you how to think.
And I feel like this guy is going to get a lot of pushback because it's not going with this is how we think, therefore we're right and you're wrong. They're not encouraging people to go out there and be like him, you know? And that's concerning.
It's scary. It really is scary to think that the advances that we've made so far, and yet we're still stuck in this archaic way of thinking. Like,
Yeah, you would
how
think
is technology so developed, but our minds are stagnant?
Well, I wish I had an answer for you, bud. Because we had these people
It's just human nature.
Many, many moons ago, dude. Socrates, Plato. Their teachings are still relevant because
that's why we're still quoting them.
Exactly my point.
These guys are from the 1800s, 1700s.
I think Socrates and Plato, I think they're going ancient times, bro. Like way further back than that.
You know what I'm saying? There's like hundreds and hundreds, centuries.
And that's my point, is like these guys, and because it works, it makes sense, and yet I find ourselves, because they were like, go out there and think. Go out there. This is how you think. Like, don't be influenced by one person. Go figure this crap out on your own. You know what I'm saying? And this has been taught for all these centuries going forward, and yet we're like, I feel like undermining their great, philosophical thinkings. And now we're just teaching you how or what to think versus teaching you how to go formulate your own opinion and be like Dr. Alman and go against the grain and figure out and start pushing society forward as a whole,
And it's crazy because you got to look at it like, okay, well, what happened? Like, what happened? Like, what
woke culture?
What in that timeline shifted? Like, where did people start becoming complacent? And because I feel like what happened was, and there's still these revolutionary and evolutionary thinkers out there. They still exist. Like Elon Musk can be one of those people, but these people are like very few and far apart. When they are born, and there are these people out there, but when we're talking about like levels on the level of thinking that like Einstein or Socrates or Plato was on, it's like, why is it that we're still clinging on to these theories from centuries and centuries ago, when you would think that we'd just be advancing more and more, right? And like finding out these dramatic levels of thinking and coming across these levels of thinking the more that we progress forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're not. We're hung up on these old, not to say that they're wrong, but I'm just saying like we should be leaps and bounds ahead of that, and we are technology-wise.
Yeah, exactly.
But on the quantum level, we're still stagnant, right? And it's like, well, what happened? Like, what is it? And I feel like it's the double-edged sword, like you mentioned earlier. Technology became that eventually.
Yeah.
I think what it did was it made us too comfortable.
Yeah, I would say on a philosophical approach, all the ancient thinkers. Well, we've had some guns, yeah, like Solzhenitsyn and Dostoevsky come forward in the psychological world that came through with some crazy stuff that pushed it forward. But it's kind of like with like Newton or Einstein, like all these great thinkers, like they set such a revolutionary thing that it's going to be taught.
It's hard to,
And it's the basics, but we still need the Elon Musks to come forward, the Stephen Hawkings to come forward, the future generation of these things progressing forward. But my point in bringing up like Socrates and Plato and all these guys was they were onto something such a long time ago, and that's why it's stuck around for centuries.
well, I'm not saying don't include that in,
No.
in the literature, right? What I'm saying is that life should be like, and the way of thinking in general, the way we approach life in general should be like the DSM. Okay, well, what version are we on now? Like, all these guys back in the the early
they set the
1800s,
standard.
what version of the DSM were they on, right? Maybe they were on DSM 3, right? Well, we should have been like on DSM like 25 already by now, but it's just like,
Well, I mean, I don't know.
I feel like we're not as far ahead as we should be as far as
I would
thinking
like
goes.
to I would like to assume the reason we're not on DSM 25 is, thinking this is me being probably very, very ignorant on the
It
topic.
makes sense though, right?
No, it does, but is that you don't want to go through these gratuitous changes without any sort of validation to whatever's going to be changed in the new iteration of the.
Well, what I'm saying though is that all our time and our money is being allocated in a lot of the wrong areas
So
a lot of the time. So, because if we just put the money towards this type of thinking, I think we would start seeing more results.
There's this book though that I mentioned in one of the older podcasts. I forgot the name of the title. It was like 10 things every smart person should know, and it was basically their thing was, and it also followed with the podcast of this person that wrote the book or co-authored. They basically said the issue that we're having is people are finding problems within society, whether it be global warming, fossil fuels, electric cars, whatever you name it, right? We can't, when you focus on one area, you neglect the other areas. You can't, there's so many problems that we have to address. You can't afford to pick one and take its steam on. He's like, okay, global warming's a hot topic right now. If we throw all the world's money at global warming, we're going to neglect all of the other problems that exist, and we're going to be a lot worse off for it. So I can understand the approach. It's like, how do you go through allocating the funds toward these specific areas without taking from another? What I think needs to be happen is that whoever's in charge of running the DSM need to be more open-minded to people like him that are coming forward with, what I would consider advances in their particular field, and not be so quick to dismiss because it's taboo. No, you need more people like this guy coming in here giving you guys ideas, and saying, hey, the DSM 1 through 4 or 1 through 5 worked. However, here's a new segment for DSM 6 that we should be looking into. And I'm not saying take it with a grain of salt. Look at it, but if it's proving to be fruitful, it's worth looking into to make some future changes. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think needs to happen is like you said, you have people in these positions of power that don't want to give it up, or if it's money involved, whatever it may be, that are really quick to dismiss this guy's. I mean, I don't understand how one can argue the stuff that you brought up from this guy. They need to be really quick to, hey, he's on it. Hey, if it's monetary, we can make more money off of this. Let's look into it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can charge for imaging.
It's just stubbornness is it's just what it comes down to.
Or maybe it's like, I wasn't me that came up with the idea, therefore it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Maybe if that doctor that was in charge of it all was Dr. Alman, hey guys, I found this great imaging thing. We're going to do this now. You know what I'm saying? But who knows, man? It could be a number of factors. But whatever the case may be, it does need an overhaul because, I consider you a brother, dude. And to know that, whatever you're going through could be better, handled a lot better, is concerning to me. You know what I'm saying? Because you may not be getting that full spectrum approach to your current condition.
And it's just crazy, dude. Because I'll never forget this. It's just like, I just remember being young, dude, and just like reluctant to get treatment because, like I said, every time it felt like something was missing. It just I thought I was like nuts for thinking about it, not knowing that there's a whole book dedicated to this type of thing and the way that people are feeling around the world as to, as far as getting treatment goes. Because I was just like, man, I just feel like there's something missing. They're not spending enough time with me. And it's just like, I'm telling people this stuff. Like, I'm discussing it with family members. Like, I just need a doctor, and this is verbatim, that's going to spend more time with me and get to know me before they treat me. That way they know all the issues, and that way it will calibrate my treatment plan, right? And everyone always tells me, like, well, I mean, I feel like you're not going to get that because it's just not how it works. In my head, I'm just like, wait, why? And it's like, it's a big why.
Sounds like you need to go to school and be Dr. Almond version 2.
It's a big why though, right? It's just like, again, no shit, right? To me, it's just like, no shit. Like, yeah, we need to be spending more time with patients and just people in general. You know what I mean? Need to be looking into this type of thing, and we need to start figuring out a way how to get people the proper help, because there are people that are in the same boat that I was until I went and stumbled upon some research and just like, oh, like, here's why. This is why. And I'm not crazy for thinking that. So if you guys are out there thinking like you feel like your treatment plan and your approach to getting better is just like you don't know what to do, where to start, and you feel confused, it's like you're not the only one.
Have you ever considered going to school for this kind of stuff?
Nah, when I was younger, I wanted to be like a neuroscientist because what had happened to me and the way my brain chemistry changed over the years was really intriguing to me. As scary as it was still intriguing to me. So I eventually wanted to do something like that, but dude, pipe dream. It was never.
I'm just saying because like
never in the cards.
You have like a what I would say like a passion for what we're talking about. So I feel like you could be Dr. Almond's right hand man in pushing this forward.
Me and Aaron were talking about this in the sauna the other day. I was like, dude, I really want to, like, because I would like to go back to school to like do something, but the only thing I really know is production, music engineering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like something along those lines, which makes sense for me because I got the most experience in it. But it's like, I feel like my true passion lies in this. And it's just like, I'm 31 years old and I'm not giving myself an out or an excuse. I'm just stating the facts. It's like, if I did happen to go into something like this, right? I'm looking at 10, 12 years before I even, start looking into like finding a job, getting a paycheck, like it's a long road ahead. But I mean, shit, it's like, I got to look at it. I got to ask myself that question. That's for me to ask, like, what do I really want to do? You know what I mean?
I'm just saying, man, like it's, I would say you'd be at the end of your rope if you're in your 50s.
Yeah.
But
people are probably laughing at like 31, bro. Come on, like you're young.
Dude, you hear it all the time, dude. People going back to school, like having like whether they were educated in something else prior or they just found whatever it was that they're calling, and they go back to school and then, hell, maybe you won't even go that far into it, but maybe you'll get yourself more into this field and you'll find a position where you're able to have a more, I don't know, a better approach than some people would.
I'll tell you this though. I mean, ever since I, became an adult, maybe through my 20s and even, beginning my 30s, I've always had it in the back of my head that I've wanted to help kids like me, people that grew up the way I did and everything. It was always in the back of my head to be like maybe a therapist or something like that. So it was always something that, I kind of wanted to do.
Master's degree, 8 years.
Yeah. But yeah, it definitely was something that I found myself naturally like gravitating towards just because I have the experience with it.
And here's the thing, and I think that's a outstanding approach because you're able to empathize with people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because like, hey, like I've been there, I've done that, I know what you're going through more or less. But I told you this before, and then like I said, it had to take that doctor to validate it for you. But you're an intelligent individual, so like I feel like if you were to put forth, and because I truly feel the crappy part about school is they shovel a bunch of stuff down your throat that you don't care about, so you don't pay attention to it and you don't retain the information. I had a lot of fun in my academy because I liked the work. It made it easy for me to retain the information. You know what I'm saying? So, and now granted, it's nowhere near as in-depth and involved as this kind of stuff pertains to, but I feel since you have such a liking to this kind of stuff that when you go to school, you're gonna, if you're gonna do crappy in any part of school, it's gonna be the stuff that's not pertaining to this. And when you're going through, you get your what do they call your general ed, your GE, when you're going back to math and, composition and all this kind of crap. Yeah, you might struggle in that because, hey, your heart's not in it, but you're just, I have to get this to get this, so I got to do it. But I feel when you're going for your major specific courses, that would be where you would excel and probably have, I'm not saying you're not going to have trouble, but you're going to remember a lot more of this because it's fun. It's engaging to you. You're learning a lot from it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel that if that's something that was in the back of your mind that, oh, I didn't do that well in high school, a lot of it, like, in my personal experience, I feel when you actually are intrigued by what's being discussed or taught to you, you're way more receptive to the information and your ability to retain it just shoots through the roof. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because right now, I'll give you an example. I was asking questions and you were turning through all these pages because you knew where it was at,
Yeah.
and you just wanted to make sure that you weren't going to be, I guess, misrepresenting the text you wanted to get. But my point is, you retained all that stuff and you read the book once.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
First, I appreciate that a lot. It means a lot that you say that to me. And then two, it's just like, yeah, you have to learn you have to relearn how to learn, really. Because my experience with high school was like, I was shit at it. Straight Fs, literally. Like, if I could find my report card, I'll put it right here. We've talked about this before, but it's just like, the information just wasn't interesting enough for me. And on top, ADD and stuff like that, it made it hard for me to learn. But I find that if it's interesting enough to me, I will retain that information. I do have to work a little bit harder at it, but it's just like, dude, it's worth retaining that information, the work that you put in. If it's something that you're truly passionate about.
Yeah, and I feel like this is something that because, like, I mean, you didn't make a podcast channel where it's a very generic, we talk about everything on the sun, and like,
Sometimes.
no, but that wasn't the purpose of your channel.
Oh,
though.
yeah, no, that wasn't.
I mean, look at the name of the channel.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever explained that, but go ahead.
No, but I know, and if you don't want to get into that, then I won't get into that. But you told me what it means, so it makes sense. It's a mental health specific, with some little firecrackers every now and again, But for the most part, this is what the whole purpose of it is. So there's a passion for this, whether it's because you just want to document your experience and try to help others. Nevertheless, to me, what it says to me is that there's a passion for it. And then I think it's something that you should really consider looking into, because I'll tell you what, man, when you work and you have a job, and some people fall into it, some people they knew specifically when they, from birth, of what they were going to do. I would say that you're a person that fell into it the same way that I fell into my profession. I like it, and it makes it a fun job to go do. There's days where it sucks and it feels like work, but for the most part, it's a job that you would enjoy doing, and it's not like you're pulling teeth every morning to get up. Because I've had those jobs where I was like, dude,
man, me too.
I was already looking forward to my weekend on Monday. You know,
it's
what I'm saying?
not what you want.
And that's a terrible experience. So if you can find yourself in an environment where it's like, yeah, I'm tired, I really not to go in, but hey, I'm here, I'll make the best of it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so to wrap it up, because we're already an hour and a half in, to wrap it up, it goes back to me being a believer in, and this is slowly over time I learned this. Sometimes I'd like to believe this. What happens is for a reason a lot of the times, and what's meant to be will be. And like you said, I kind of fell into this. It wasn't something that I ever asked for. And I don't think it's something that anybody would ever ask for. It's just like, well, you're going to find a passion later in life, right? But in order to develop that passion for whatever it is that you're going through, you're going to have to go through and endure some shit, right? Mentally. And when you see that on paper, it's just like, well, what route do I really want to take? Do I want to suffer but gain from it, or just take the path less traveled, right? Or most traveled, easier paved? And it's just like, dude, all this shit kind of just like, it feels like it was almost like everything that I went through was just training camp, and it was just like God hooked me up to put me on course, for if this was going to be what I was going to do. It's just like, I have all the experience already, and I have the passion to go with it. My heart would be in the right place. In other words, I wouldn't let the monetary side of things distort my perception of like, what is the main goal here, And like I said, I feel like it goes back into like, well, again, maybe what happened to me was for a good reason, maybe not for a specific reason. It might be, I don't know. We'll never know. But it feels like that, you know? It feels like everything that I went through and I'm still going through is just like, all right, there is a purpose here, you know? So you never know. We'll see. Stay tuned. So
There we go.
but I appreciate you, man, coming over extra early. I actually like the vibe of the earlier the podcast, you know.
It's like we're at work, bro.
It feels like it. It feels like it, but not really. I don't know, man. That was a good episode. It just flew by.
Yeah, it did.
So, and there's a lot of shit in here I didn't even cover. I was bouncing around a lot, but
we got plenty of episodes to come to cover all that stuff. So.
for sure, 100%. Well, thank you guys for the ones who are tuning in, and to the future viewers. If you guys enjoy this content here on the PO3 Podcast channel, we would really appreciate it if you guys would like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. Turn on the bells for notifications. That way you can be notified of our, future episodes. We drop these every Monday, 9 a.m. Actually, one just dropped right now. One just dropped 15 minutes ago. But we hope you guys had a good week, good weekend. Have a good week.
Go America.
Go America. It was the 4th of July yesterday, so shout out to that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, shout out. America.
Hashtag America, dude.
Hashtag America, hashtag Brainhealth. So yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the PO3 Podcast. I never know how to wrap these up, but
no, I think it's a good way to end it, man.
For sure. 100%.
Appreciate you guys. You guys are the reason we do this.
100%. My name is Marcus Marx.
Just John.
We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.